music is where I'd like you to touch.
Hi, I'm Craig Mathias with the wireless and mobile advisory firm Farpoint Group, and today we're going to be talking about cellular generations. With the announcement of the iPhone, there's a lot of confusion about what's 3G, what's 4G. A lot of these terms are imprecise, but I want to give you at least a little perspective on where they came from and where we're going with this technology and these set of technologies over the next few years. 1G, as you might guess, was the original analog cellular. And by analog, we mean the carrier was analog. We weren't sending bits over the air. We were, in fact, just sending waveforms, and primarily for voice. It turns out we could also do a limited amount of data. It didn't work very well, but it did work. And this whole technology actually sounded very good as well. One of the problems, though, is there were an awful lot of these in the world. We use something called amps in this country. In Europe, they had more than 8 different cellular systems, including NMT and TAX and a bunch of others. It was a mess. But there was a bigger problem, and that's what led to the development of digital cellular. Now, in digital, we're talking about sending ones and zeros over the air. And believe it or not, we did not do this in order to make voice sound better. We did it to get more bits on the air. Digital is more spectrally efficient, so we get more customers on the air, more conversations simultaneously. No real emphasis on data here either. In fact, this was rarely deployed. It was difficult to find, at least in this country, anybody doing data on 2G systems. And there were also a number of these that were completely incompatible with one another. TDMA, which was used by AT&T, GSM, which was used by T-Mobile, and then CDMA, which was used by Verizon and Sprint. And these technologies still exist to some degree, but gradually the carriers have been migrating to 3G. Now, there was an interim step on the way, something we call 2.5G, and that was simply putting packet data onto a 2G wireless network. So instead of circuit data, we used packet data, and the key technology here was called GPRS, the General Packet Radio System. Now, this could actually go, in theory, up to 171.2 kbits per second, but most users saw, say, 20 to 40 kbits per second. And again, this is still available in some markets as well. 3G, however, was a big step forward. Here we're talking about digital, but not narrowband anymore, broadband, and exclusively packet data. In fact, we have gotten throughput up to very, very high levels, 3.1 megabits per second on CDMA networks. This is the evolution of this CDMA. And in reality, a lot of users are reporting 500 to 700 kbits per second. Now, of course, your mileage will vary. Throughput is always highly variable. But we have been seeing significant advances here, including a new revision of EVDO that is being rolled out now by Sprint and Verizon. Now, instead of IS-95, this is called CDMA 2000, and again, the carriers here are Verizon and Sprint. And then the other competitors in this country, the major competitors, AT&T and T-Mobile, are using the evolution of GSM technology, which is called UMTS, Universal Mobile Telecommunication System. So those are the key carriers today. Now, the development of the iPhone 3G, the announcement of the iPhone 3G brings up a very interesting question. The first iPhone used a technology called EDGE, which stands for Enhanced Data Rates for Global Evolution, and it is in fact just an evolution of GPRS. Now, EDGE counts as a 3G technology according to the definition from the International Telecommunications Union, and they have been the arbiter of the definition of 3G for a very long time now. The general numbers that you look for in 3G were 144 kbits per second when you're moving at a fairly rapid rate, 384 kbits per second when you're moving not quite so fast, and 2 megabits per second when you're stationary or indoors. Now, the iPhone couldn't actually yield those kinds of numbers under every circumstance, but it was based on a 3G technology called EDGE. The problem is, even when the first iPhone was announced, EDGE was a relatively old technology. The replacement for it is something called HSPA, High-Speed Packet Access. Now, you may know this as HSDPA for high-speed downlink packet access or HSUPA for high-speed uplink packet access, but it's all under that same technological umbrella. And we call this 3.5G because just as we had an advance over 2G to 2.5 here that was quite notable, we had an advance over 3. And the advance over 3 is the fact that we can now go much faster than 2 megabits per second. How much faster? A lot faster. Believe it or not, HSPA is spec'd at up to 14.4 megabits per second. It's uncommon to find that kind of service anywhere in the world. 3.6 megabits per second and 7.2 are in fact becoming a relatively common phenomenon now. And the new iPhone 3G has this technology built in. You will not, in general, see those kinds of numbers. As is always the case, there's a big difference between peak and actual based on loading, your distance from the cell, the phases of the moon. Radio propagation is a fairly difficult technology to explain. But you can expect that you'll be getting 1 to 3 megabits per second, something on that order, out of these technologies going forward. But that's not the end. 4G is an entirely different animal, whereas 3G and earlier are all based on relatively conventional time division multiplex telecommunications technologies. 4G is digital, broadband, packet-based, and very importantly, all IP. In other words, we will be sending voice over IP over these networks as well. What's more, we will see very high throughput. Now, there's no formal accepted definition of 4G yet. A lot of people use greater than 100 megabits per second of raw throughput as the answer, but in general, you will not see those kinds of levels of throughput either. In fact, we're thinking right now that you can expect to see on the order of 3 to 5 megabits per second, which is actually quite astounding. We're talking about cable modem and DSL kinds of speeds into a moving device. you're driving along and you'll be able to receive and send data, hopefully not while you are driving, at those kinds of speeds. Wi-Fi, by my definition anyway, actually fits in here as well. If we deploy Wi-Fi on a metro scale and we use 802.11n, we really could see end user speeds of greater than 100 megabits per second. Regardless, the key technologies you hear about are WiMAX. Now this is funny because the ITU actually counts WiMAX as a 3G technology, even though it is in fact much faster to the end user than the 2 megabits per second. That's the formal definition there. LTE, which stands for long-term evolution. This is in fact the evolution of UMTS. And then Wi-Fi, which a lot of people would not think of as a cellular technology, but in fact it is. It supports handoffs. There's work underway now to be able to do those handoffs at fairly high motion speeds. So Wi-Fi, I think, will play a role in this as well. And of course, the ability to hand off between these different technologies could become a key element in the success of 4G going forward as well. Is there a 5G? No, we're not talking about anything like 5G at this point, but gigabit wireless will be the next big topic that will be tackled by a lot of engineers and carriers out there as well. So you can look forward to that at some point, but for now, we've got you covered. If you're looking for higher throughput, the entire history of cellular and wireless is oriented around delivering better service at higher throughput, and we're going to be looking at some really amazing numbers over the next few years. I hope this has been helpful. I'm Craig Mathias. Thanks very much for watching.
So too close to call, except the third gen is really lagging behind, but again, doesn't really matter too much. What we're going to do now is we're going to power them up and show you what difference the internal specs make. 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, so pretty close actually. It's harder than it looks. Here's a good indicator of the screen quality. The third gen is looking extremely blue for some reason. The blacks are definitely truest on the 5th gen.
So hopefully we see a succession of boot times, but that would be ideal. But
sometimes it's surprising because some softwares are more efficient than others. But the 5th gen, at least we have that one coming in first.
which should be.
All of them have about the same amount, but again, we've seen in the past that the 4th gen is struggling to handle iOS 6.
So if you missed that, we had the 2nd gen coming in a little bit before the 3rd gen, and then the 4th gen coming behind. So as we mentioned, the 4th gen does have the A4 chip, which is a very powerful chip, but it does not handle iOS 6
and it's also
in the
pushing
best way.
a lot more pixels than the other ones. So, alright, that was the boot up. Now we're going to do some web browsing tests, so we're going to clear out the data. Okay, so now we're going to do the Safari test. Okay. So, I don't know why this one's asking me about the YouTube app. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I don't really know what just happened. There's a lot to take in. So, now we're going to load up the video. Alright, so it's loading up the video. We're going to hear a lot of stuff, probably.
Whoa! Sweet.
Okay, so yeah, we got
glitching out.
we're all on the same Wi-Fi network, so there were some problems. Alright, and we've got the 16:9 aspect ratio on the 5th gen, which none of the other ones have. So that's one thing to note.
By 16:9, he means no black bars when viewing in landscape.
Yeah, you'll see right here that there will be. See at the top and bottom. Alright. Okay, so now let's go home. Okay, now we're going to load up the App Store, and we're going to search around a little bit.
Okay, so we're going to load up the App Store. Obviously, we're loading up app stores from different iOS versions, so they're going to look a little different, but, you know, we're going to do our best.
1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, so a great opening procedure there. Okay. So we see a pretty good succession of loading times here relative to the generation of the iPod Touch.
Alright, so these three are running the older version of the App Store. Let's just go ahead and try and do a search for an app, because I was playing around with them earlier and I was noticing that it was considerably slower.
1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, so now if we click on it, we'll see that.
Alright, so it looks like the older generations loaded pretty quickly.
It's just overall not a very smooth experience scrolling around the App Store on the older generations, I noticed. Just something I wanted to point out. Okay, so we weren't actually able to get the Geekbench application on these two, so we're going to run the Geekbench on the last three so you get an idea of what their numbers in performance.
And then you can kind of project what they would be as you go down the line. Okay, so basically what this app does, it goes through and tests everything in the hardware of the device, and it tells you what speed.
Just basically assigns a number to the overall performance.
Exactly, so I don't really know what it does to figure out the number, but it's a good way of comparing different specifications of devices. It's very simple and idiot-proof.
Okay, so the 5th gen pulled in a score of 624. Fourth gen got 393.
And the 3rd gen is not that great. Just kidding. 3rd gen holds its own for how old it is. But let's see what it does here.
Alright, so I got a 291.
So as you can see, we have about a 100 point, I mean, I don't know what the unit is, but 100 difference between the 3rd and the 4th generation, but then we got a much larger jump when you step up to the 5th generation. You got the dual core processor in the A5, which obviously makes a great difference.
Oh, I guess we'll just do the Plants vs. Zombies test to finish it out. We don't actually have it on the 2nd gen, but you can see in between the 3rd and 1st. Unfortunately, the operating system is incompatible with the app.
And the 1st generation was previously downloaded, so
yeah,
that's how
before
we have it.
Alright, so let's go ahead and open it.
Oh god.
It's right there.
There it is. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
So you can see it's a different version on the 1st gen. So we're rolling out the grass. Oh, come on, 4th. The 3rd gen kicked butt.
Well, I mean, obviously the 5th gen won, but Ryan's kind of saying that.
Yeah, compared to the 4th gen.
Yeah. As you can see, the 4th gen is just overall not living up to.
And this is going to carry out through gaming performance. You're going to see a lot of dropped frames in the older versions, so it definitely isn't recommended to go with anything other than really the 4th or the 5th, but definitely I would choose the 5th out of any of them. So the 1st gen's still going.
Yeah, so
everyone else is done.
If you can take any lesson from this video, it's that you should really not buy the 3rd, 2nd, or 1st generation.
Done.
They're not worth anything. I'm serious.
Okay, so that about sums up this video. Comment below what you think. Like it if you liked it, and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.